This is, I believe, perhaps the most important series of posts in the next few days I'm going to make. I'm not given to hyperbole. I prefer to kind of understate things rather than overhype them. Nevertheless, I'm really conscious that we're all living through totally historic times. Right now, the world splits into two types of people. Those who were aware of what's going on with this pandemic, and those who aren't aware. Of those who are aware of what's going on, they split down into two groups. The people who know what's going on with this pandemic are either perpetrating or orchestrating the pandemic, or they're resisting the perpetrators. At the moment, the momentum and the power lies with the people who are perpetrating or orchestrating the pandemic for a number of reasons. First, they are extremely wealthy people. I mean, their wealth runs into the billions. Owing to their wealth, they have access to the biggest artillery piece on the battlefield, that is, the media. And by use of the media, they can condition the minds of the world at large, and they can withhold information from the world at large so that the world can be led to a certain point of view. Because they control the media, they have the next really important piece on the battlefield. That is the perpetrators. The next really important piece on the battlefield are elected officials. People they didn't elect, but we, apparently of our own free will, elected. And they are enacting the laws by which you and I live in our respective countries. Sometimes they're not elected officials, sometimes they're appointed officials. That would be with organizations like the WHO, World Health Organization, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and other really important pieces that control and manage world economies, currency, finances, that sort of thing. That would be the global financial institutions, International Finance Corporation, World Bank, and other lenders and bankers around the world. The reason the momentum is with those who are running this pandemic is because they control all of these assets. And despite the untold wealth that they can marshal, the one piece they absolutely don't have is the numbers, because the population of the world runs into billions. And if they decide that they won't wear what's being pushed down their throats, it's game over. And the perpetrators know this. That's why they will do absolutely everything to keep the real power brokers, which is the ordinary people of the world, from understanding what is really happening around them, so that their behavior can be managed, so that in fact they will get the ordinary people of the world batting and rooting for those who are working to cull them. This brings me to my next point. Why is this COVID pandemic happening? It's providing the problem and the crisis through which certain very important goals will be achieved by those who are perpetrating it. I won't go into all of them. If you want to read about the Great Reset, it's all on the website of the World Economic Forum. All 371 pages of it. Read it at your leisure. I've done another post. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can see my presentation on what the Great Reset is all about. But the key thing that all of this stuff is about, every difficulty we have got, the smashing of our world economy, the lockdowns, the removal of private and individual and social and civic liberties, the aim of everything is world depopulation. And in the various bits of research that I've read, the number 500 million comes to mind. Now, bearing in mind that the world's population stands at between 6 and 7 billion people, to cull them to 500 million is a massive depopulation of the world. I'm aware that there are those who would have switched off this video by now because they're thinking conspiracy theorists. Well, that's your privilege. But I want to go into the mindset now, because in this video I'm looking at the people who know what's going on. I want to look at the mindset of those who would perpetrate such a world goal as massive depopulation. See, to do that, you need a certain mindset. It's not something I could do. It's not something I could even dream of wanting to do. You have to be a psychopath. And the key thing about being a psychopath is a total lack of empathy. Now, all the serial killers around the world, like that doctor in the United Kingdom who is considered to be the greatest serial killer in British history, they're incredibly plausible. Every one of his patients who he killed, and he killed over 100, trusted him. So just because a psychopath lacks empathy doesn't mean a psychopath also lacks charm. Normally, they ooze charm in a way in which normal people are unlikely to. Normal people get caught up in their emotions and they feel upset about this and they're not up for it at other times and so on and so forth. Psychopaths don't go through any of those difficulties. They switch on whatever emotion will give them what they need at whatever time, and they don't have the brakes on their issues around emotion. But a person who lacks empathy is a person who is completely unable to take the perspective of the person that they are harming. Actually, we can all be groomed to a certain degree to lack empathy. Some people lack empathy for animals. Some people lack empathy for other people of different races. Some people lack empathy for people of different classes. But a real psychopath is like that for everybody, without recognition of class, ethnicity, social station, level of... They have no boundaries in their lack of empathy. Now, because they don't have any empathy, they are missing that spark that makes us all special. It's called humanity. So, of the people who were perpetrating what's going on, there are those who are kind of leading the charge, running everything. And there are those who know what's going on and they just acquiesce to it. To acquiesce to something which is inherently evil, you need um, the empathy and the human emotions alive and working well in your body to recognize that um, however much pressure you're being put under, this is something you can't do. You need a sense of empathy and a sense of conscience. So such people who are placed in position, who may not have originated these terrible world plans, but go with it anyway, um, are people who are also deeply flawed because they lack integrity. They are driven entirely by bribes and removal of privilege. And many politicians are like that. That is why when these people who have so much wealth, power, media control, and authority come to pass, politicians, they can tell politicians to jump. Politicians will literally say, how high? So those people who know what's going on, who may think, well, this is really awful, and so on and so forth, but basically they'll roll over and go with it. Now, lastly, I'm going to look at the group of people who know what's going on, but oppose it. There is, I would say, one single factor that differentiates such people from those who will either plan and orchestrate um, the world catastrophe we're living through at the moment, and their agents who are rewarded for making it happen, like politicians, like officials at various levels, like scientists, and so on. What those who refuse to support it have in common is that they're in touch with an inner self, which gives them a sense of conscience. I actually call it their soul. They're in touch with their soul. I can't scientifically define what a soul is, but it is a connectedness to yourself, which, once you made that connection, connects you to the rest of humanity, not just humanity, but animals and the rest of the universe. And you have a very clear sense of right and wrong. You may not do the right thing all the time, but your conscience is in place. And that's the nature, essentially, of the people who are against either the orchestrators or their their uh, their administrators, the people who make these things happen. And the battle is on right now for those who have a soul, who have a conscience, who have a sense of their identity as human beings. A battle is underway for the hearts and minds of the vast majority of people who don't seem to know what is going on at the moment. And that's what I'm going to talk about in my next video. Please think about what you're hearing here. Please share this video. I actually don't care whether you agree or disagree with me. All I care about is that you discuss the things that I have said, 1, and 2. Compare it to the run of events that we have seen unfold around the world so far. Last thing I'll say is that today, on the 17th of May, Britain's lockdown was reduced. We have many more freedoms. Huge numbers of people have been vaccinated in the United Kingdom. But then there was a fly in the ointment. Apparently, there's a new variant of the disease which has been discovered running kind of quite strongly in 1 or 2 urban conurbations, Bolton being one. And as a result of that, people are saying that, well, we have to be very careful that even though we've been promised this reduction of the lockdown, things may have to be closed up again. Now, where have you heard that before in the United Kingdom? This is the consistent playbook of those who are running this pandemic. Carrots and sticks, carrots and sticks, to the point where people are just worn down and will finally say, oh, for God's sake, just do what you want to do. I just want to be free. Of course, the moment you roll over and they have you, remember, people without a conscience, people without empathy, will just see you as cattle to be culled, to be abused, to be done with as they choose for their own convenience. Please think carefully on these matters. Thank you very much.